Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much for that, Irina. And thank you to everyone for joining us. Just to introduce myself, I'm Dr. Rose Harris-Birtill, and I'm the Editorial Officer at the Open Library of Humanities, or OLH, as we call it. And I'm the Managing Editor across its suite of 27 open access journals. So to give you a little bit more information about what the Open Library of Humanities does, the OLH is an open access publisher, and we're academic-led, and it has no paywall for readers. So all our journals are completely free to access, and there's no article processing charges for authors. So we're really proud to be a free-to-read, free-to-publish platform. And so in order to do this, our costs for publishing are funded by a consortium of libraries across the globe, which we're very grateful to. And you can find out more on the OLH website if you're interested in supporting us. So today we're going to be talking about the Janeway software platform that the OLH uses, which is open source and it's completely free to use. So the OLH effectively directs the development of Janeway, as we both actively publish using the platform, but we also use the feedback from editors and authors along the way to actually improve the platform. So Janeway is constantly being improved and updated, which I think is one of its huge strengths. So we're really lucky today to have Andy Byers and Mauro Sanchez, who are Janeway's stellar technical developers here, to present an overview of the platform in today's webinar. So I'm going to hand over to them now, and then we'll take some questions if there's time at the end, if that's okay. So thanks very much, and over to you, Andy.
Hello there, I'm Andy Byers. I'm one of the senior publishing technology developers. I'm based out of the Birkbeck Center for Technology and Publishing. And I also work for the Open Library of Humanities, where I'm essentially developed the Janeway platform alongside my colleague Mauro, who will introduce himself now as well.
Hi there. I'm just the other senior software developer at Janeway, and it's basically the same introduction. I also work at Birkbeck Center for Technology and Publishing, and we invest most of our time working on the Janeway platform these days.
Okay, so just to kick us off, we have absolutely no affiliation with Star Trek or Captain Janeway, but she is our favorite. And that is where the name came from. It is named after Captain Janeway of Star Trek fame, and it's entirely Professor Martin Eve's fault. We had a different name for the platform, and he didn't like it, so he suggested this Janeway, and it kind of stuck, and now it has officially stuck once we released it a couple of years ago. So what is Janeway? It's an open source platform for managing journals, and also has a press level, which some other platforms don't have. So you get the sort of standard features you would expect of a piece of software in this space. Notably, it includes a base layer for processing submission from start to publication through peer review, copy editing, production, and proofing. And we also support Crossref built in, so at the point of acceptance, DOIs are automatically minted and then deposited with Crossref. We have plugins for Crosscheck, which is a different name now, but basically it's the Authenticate plagiarism service. So it can submit new papers to Crosscheck or Authenticate, and then receive those plagiarism reports directly within the system without having to hand out logins to editors. And we also have Clocks and Locks plugins, and one for Portico as well for their services. So you can Clocks and Locks can scrape content out of Janeway, and with Portico we actually send it to them using an FTP system. In amongst that, you have all the sort of standard features you would expect: a CMS and news system, pages for generating nice looking editorial team pages, contact form. We have OEI, PMH displays, as well as import routines. So if a service you want to move from one platform into Janeway, we can import using OEI, or we have other ones for bpress and OJS and stuff like that, so we can import journals directly into Janeway. And we also have plugins for managing APCs and displaying what APCs are. Discuss chat tool. We have an import tool as well for uploading spreadsheets and things for importing content. And we have a a back content loading plugin that allows you to load articles into the system very quickly. And then on the press side, we have two new parts of that. We have one for displaying books. And if anyone's interested in how that displays, you can check out Huddersfield University Press's website. They have they make use of that books plugin, and they have about 20 books on there. And we just released an update for that that allows the display of ePrints, sorry, not ePrints, EPUBs. So you can read EPUBs in the browser without having to download them or install EPUB software. And we also have a very simple preprint system there as well, which we're looking to expand in the future. We're doing a bit of a study with some people who are interested in this area about whether we should expand the preprints area to cover more of a repository type system where you can control metadata profiles for unlimited number of subsections. So you can create university, and then below that schools or colleges and then schools below that, and then departments below that, and within those you can have different metadata profiles for each of them, and then do the usual repository depositing from there. And we're still in chat with different people about that. Have you got anything you think that would be useful, Mauro, to add on top of that?
I guess it's worth mentioning all the different plugins that we have for importing contents from other platforms if someone wants to migrate to Janeway. So, for example, we've been working on plugins to import from bpress and ePrints that make the process much easier.
Yeah, and we've also got OJS too, which we're working on as well. And then we actually also are developing or can develop custom solutions. So we are working with one university in the US where they don't use any of the mainstream systems. They have the one of their own. And so we're working with them to develop an import routine directly. And so we can do that as well. Do you want to go over the platform structure, Mauro?
Yeah, sure. So as Andy was mentioning, the top level entity that we have in the system is the press, which is basically your press management system. And from there, you can have and host multiple journals. Each of the journals can distribute their content into different issues. And then within those issues, we can have our articles. But the main point to get here is that the entire system is customizable. So if, for example, in your use case, you are only hosting one journal, there is no need for you to expose a press. At the same time, we also offer flexibility on the article publishing. So a single article can belong to one issue, multiple issues in case you're handling special collections, for example, or no issues at all if you're just publishing content outside of any kind of issue. It's important to mention as well that you can have different kinds of issues. So for example, we have journals that are publishing your usual standard issues, but we also have some other groups that are publishing conferences, so they can have a different collection type for their conferences and render the content in a way that makes sense for that type of publishing.
Yeah, we have some very interesting use cases there, especially with one of our partners, Iowa, where they publish farm reports, and so those are like a completely different thing from the sort of normal journal issue article grouping, and so we've built Janeway to be flexible on the back of that request from them, and that's kind of how we work. So when we have partners, commercial or self-hosted, we work with them to make Janeway better. Use their feedback to tweak the structure.
Yeah. Another advantage of having this kind of platform is that if you're hosting multiple journals, you can have a single set of credentials for all of them, and you can participate in multiple publications if so you want. So you could have your pool of peer reviewers available across multiple journals at the same time.
Yeah. So this is an example of the OLH live instance. I took this screenshot a very long time ago. But this is what the press level can look like. The homepage is customizable. So on this one, we have a carousel at the top that rotates and use with different images. And then below that, we have a list of featured journals. And so on the OLH platform, this is randomized. So whenever, I think every 60 seconds, it picks 6 new journals to display in that block. And as I say, each press can customize how the homepage appears with, I think we've got about 6 or 7 different what we call homepage elements that you can put in there. And we even have an HTML one where if you want to have it completely custom, we can completely customize the homepage using that. And then, so this is just an example of what the news page looks like. So this is one of the pages within the system. A couple of news items there we've got where people joining our library publishing scheme. And this is an example of an article on a journal called Orbit, called the Pension Playlist. It's quite a popular piece. This uses a theme that we've built called Material. So there are 3 themes within Janeway. One material looks like this. One called the OLH theme, which looks a bit like this. And then a third theme called Default, which is a very simple bootstrap-based theme. And they all display the same information, just in slightly different ways. And then underneath those, they all have the same metadata display using citation metadata tags and Dublin Core as well. A little bit of background. Mauro's picture isn't on here yet because these are old slides that I've just updated and I forgot to put him on. His name is here though. Our project is led by Professor Martin Paul Eve, who some of you might have heard of. Recently won a Leverhulme Prize. Congratulations to him. He doesn't stop talking about it. His name in the paper and everything. So he's very happy about that. We're happy for him. And the main development of the platform is undertaken by myself and Mauro, and we're supported by the Open Library of Humanities and by Birkbeck, where we all work. Our intention is to just kind of ensure a spread of OLH journals across a range of different platforms. And so we actually at OLH use multiple platforms. We're moving more journals onto Janeway, but we also make use of, we have a journal on the University of Liverpool Press's site as well. But our aim is to ensure there's a suitable sort of long-term home for all the OLH journals. So if anything ever goes wrong, we can bring them onto the Janeway platform and host them there. So we're currently hosting our press site, and we've got about 5 or 6 journals on Janeway, I think. And we're bringing a new one over, 19, which is quite a prestigious a journal, which actually happens to also be a Birkbeck-based journal, so it's nice to work with them on that as well. So what does Janeway aim to achieve? We want a scholarly publishing platform written in a stable language and framework, so we chose Python and Django. The Django framework tagline is for perfectionists with timescales, and we think that kind of works quite well. And it has a very simple, it has as little magic, or we try to have as little magic as possible and follow their model view template process, which makes it very easy or easier to follow how Janeway is coded. And we've noticed that when we've worked with, so we work with Carnegie Mellon University on their platform, and we got some feedback from them, and it was a lot easier to understand than other platforms. And we're working with the California Digital Library as well on some projects with them. And so we test all of our security code, and then we add regression tests to ensure that bugs don't reappear when they're discovered. And we're hoping to add more testing in the future. This is something that Mauro's very big on. He loves testing, don't you, Mauro?
Yeah, definitely.
So we're basically trying to stabilize our platform a bit more as well. So we're relatively new in terms of software in this space. I mean, the likes of OJS have been around for 10, 15 years. So we're quite new to the space, and so our software is a bit more juvenile, which is a good thing for us being able to make changes to it very quickly. There's a bad thing in so much as there may be issues and bugs and things that we do need to fix, and so we use testing to try and ensure that we keep on top of that.
I think the main takeaway on the tech side is that we've chosen a really big and open source framework, which means that we don't have to spend much time working on the tech side of things, and we can spend more time on publishing features rather than tech big features. It also means that whenever there is a new vulnerability on the internet, we don't really have to spend much time fixing the problems because the open source community will contribute to this framework, and we can focus on the publishing side.
Yeah, it's been really good using Django on that side as well, especially having updates coming down from them. And so we use, just in case anyone's interested, we use Django 1.11, which is their long-term support version, and we were very soon moving to Django 2.2 or 2.3, I think, which is their new long-term support version. There's quite a few changes, so we're going to be working on that. One thing that should be noted is that we don't, as part of the main repository or the core of Janeway, we don't host any code that allows for paywalls, and that's one of our guiding principles. Especially, as OLH, we're a sort of what is called platinum open access publisher. There are no fees charged at the point of publication or afterwards. We ask libraries to contribute into our fund, and so we don't allow, as part of the core of Janeway, any paywall software. That doesn't mean that someone can't go away and build a plugin that enables a paywall within the system. It just means that myself and Mauro and Martin will never support it in the core of Janeway, if that makes sense. And we chose a license. It's AGPL. Some of you might have heard of the GPL license before, and we chose AGPL because it closes the GPL software as a service loophole. And this loophole allowed people to take GPL software and make changes to it and offer those to other people for a fee without making those changes available back to the community. And we thought that wasn't very cool. So what AGPL does is says, sure, you can take Janeway and you can make changes to it, but you have to make those changes available to other people as well, which I think is fair. We make our software completely open. All the costs of developing it are borne by OLH and Birkbeck. And so I think anyone using it should then make any changes or updates they make available as well. And so we're collaborating, as I mentioned earlier on, with various partners. Carnegie Mellon have developed a repository. It's more like an encyclopedia platform on top of Janeway. We're working with Hypothesis on doing some open peer review stuff, which is really cool. We're working on with California Digital Library on some projects with them as well to do journal hosting, which is really cool. So, what is great about Janeway? Well, we talked about Django already. We love Django; it's great. There are 8,000 packages, 8,000 plus packages available that can be plugged directly in or almost directly in with Janeway. So, for example, if someone wanted to add a forum board system, those things exist already, and you're able to pull them in using Python packages, so developers can do that quite easily. Django, as we mentioned earlier on, very stable. It was released 12 years ago, so it's been around for a long time. So it's quite a stable framework for us to then build Janeway on top of. We also package 3 themes with Janeway, and they're all based on popular frameworks, Bootstrap, Foundation, and Materialize, which means that other people doing themes can easily understand how the theming works within the system. We have a public REST API, which can be used to build your own front end. So we have some people who are interested in only using Janeway for the submission and review steps, the back end, as it were, and then they could use this REST API to pull that information through onto their own front end, so they don't have to actually use ours if they don't want to. And as we mentioned earlier on, we've got a press platform with books and journal management and preprints on there as well. What's not so great about Janeway, as we mentioned earlier on, we don't support paywalls in the core of Janeway, and we're never going to do that. One of the issues we have come across is that installing Janeway isn't necessarily as easy as perhaps it could be, or other applications that use different languages, for example, PHP applications, where you can simply drop them onto a server and point a web server at them. And so we're working to sort of mitigate that. We've got some install scripts for Ubuntu and Debian and Mint, which are popular Linux operating systems. And we're working on, have written and continue to update install and deployment guides on our wiki. And we've also got a virtual machine for anyone who's interested in that. So it's got Janeway already installed on it. And more recently than that, Mauro has built a sort of demo journal site where people can log in and then they can play around and make submissions and have a look at the editorial workflow and stuff like that. And then finally, sorry, not finally, second from last, as I mentioned earlier on, less so now, but in overall terms, Janeway is a relatively new solution in this space and still under very heavy development. So there are inevitably going to be some bugs within the platform, but we do try to fix them and make new releases as quickly as we can. And this last one, again, we have made some progress on it in recent weeks and months, but there isn't as large a community as perhaps OJS has, or yeah, we have quite a few partners. There are a few people using Janeway out in the wild, and we also have a few commercial partners as well who we do hosting for. So we are making progress on the community front as well, which is great. We're getting feedback. Obviously, we get feedback directly from the journal editors and Rose within OLH, but it's also very nice to have feedback from external. So we work with other journal managers at universities, and we get feedback directly from them as well, which is very useful. So we're working on a new release at the moment, 1.3.7, which has some overhaul of our CMS system, and some updates to the workflow system. And then we're also going to be then pushing on to 1.4, which will revolve around upgrading our system to Django 2.0 or 2.2. And as part of that, we're also going to be looking at developing our hosting as services strategy. So we have around 6 commercial clients at the moment. We've got a few deals that are in place and not yet finalized. And we have a few people who've noted their interest and are pitching it to higher ups within their system, within their institution, sorry. And so that's building as well. And those commercial agreements allow us to continue the development of Janeway, and to gather feedback as well from the community. And then we also want to work on supporting post-pub peer review, which includes submitting peer reviews to peer review platforms as well. And we also want to integrate a substances texture editor, which is a JATS XML-based editor, which will allow you to authors to not only create their papers within Janeway using JATS XML, but also then to publish them and write your own JATS XML as well. So at the point of publication, you'll be able to hopefully create a JATS XML document. It's not the simplest way of doing it because you'd have to add the metadata in through the interface. It's not automatically generated, but it's a halfway house solution that does advance the production of XML a little bit. And we want to build some more collaborative relationships, and we're working with PKP on some altmetrics displays, so we'll be able to pool Twitter mentions and Wikipedia citations and Reddit discussions and stuff directly in and display those. And we're working with the University of Michigan, or going to work with the University of Michigan, on integrating Fulcrum as a backend for storing multimedia as well. So you'll be able to upload multimedia into Fulcrum and then display it within Janeway papers as well, which is quite cool. Yeah, so of possible interest is this article that Martin and I published in 2018 in Insights. It just explains the rationale, why we thought building Janeway would be a good idea, what we generally do, how we do it, what the initial plan was, stuff like that. So it's quite interesting, and the DOI is there for that if you're interested in having a look at that. And if anyone's interested in hosted options, if you don't have technical teams in-house, or even if you just want a demo of the system, even if you're going to host it yourselves or whatever, then you can get in touch with me. My details are there on the screen. Yeah, that's it for me, unless Mauro has anything he wants to add there.
Yeah, you don't have my contact details there, but they should be on the Zoom screen as well. So if you just want to reach me instead, or just reach both of us, then yeah, feel free to do it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. We have 4 questions from Vyacheslav Brichkovsky from Belarus National Library. So you can see them in Q&A box, but I'll read them out as well. How many installations have you got? Do you support a flexible workflow of editorial process? can you name some advantages of Janeway comparing with OJS, and what collaboration with PKP did you mean? So maybe you might have already answered some of the questions in your presentation.
I'll happily go through them all again just to.
Thanks.
So we don't know the exact number of installations. Janeway is open source. We are aware of the installations we have, and we've got 6, and we're finishing a 7th install for a new press that just signed up today. Out in the wild, we're aware of I think about 4, CDL, Carnegie Mellon, and then a couple of other ones that we're not directly collaborating with them on, and they're just using it or playing around with it. And so that's grown very quickly, actually. Initially, I mean, this time last year there was only 1, just at OLH, and so that's grown pretty quickly. Especially given how slowly academia moves sometimes as well, so it's been quite good. We do have a completely flexible workflow process. So Janeway has submission, review, copy editing, production, proofing, and then we have a stage for pre-publication as well, where you check that a paper is ready for publication. And any of these stages can be removed as well. So for example, if you don't do copy editing within the system, or you don't want to do proofing within the system, you can simply eliminate those stages within that given journal. So each journal can customize its workflow like that.
Yeah, it's also worth mentioning there that in our plugin system, we also have a hook system where you can develop a plugin that can hook additional stages. So, for example, you have different workflow and there is a stage between peer review and copy editing, for example, you can just write a small plugin that can inject a stage within those two. So basically, we have an abstraction on the workflow system that allows you to reorder elements or inject any elements within the system, and then the content is just passed on between them.
Yeah, that's really good. It's quite cool. And I think we have a couple of plugins that are workflow elements in themselves. So we have a back content plugin where we have a journal that only wants to do submission within Janeway. And so what we do, our submission and publication. And so what they do is we took out review, copy editing, production, and proofing, and we put the back content plugin in. And so the articles get submitted, the editors download them from Janeway, they do their peer review and proofing offline, and then they simply use the back content plugin to then update the metadata and upload the produced PDF. And so they don't have those stages in between. Regarding OJS, I think Janeway and OJS do similar things in slightly different fashion. OJS was very open, where there was difficult to understand the progression of a paper. Certainly in OJS 2, less so perhaps in OJS 3. Janeway has a little bit of a more fixed workflow when you're using all of the main workflow elements. You have a very it's a directed system. It tells you what to do, where to go, in order to progress the paper through the elements that are in the workflow. And then we've also made changes to our production and proofing stages, where you have the option to assign external people to take care of those for you. So, for example, at OLH, in some of our journals, the editor will assign a proofing or production manager who then handles the generation of the XML and PDF on their behalf. And in some cases, that's Rose, I think, for some of the journals. So the editor will complete review, complete copy editing, and then assign the editorial manager to handle the production. And so they don't get involved in that side. They do then get back involved in the proofing stage, where they check the produced PDF and XML are okay, which I think is a really cool way of doing it. In the event that you don't use an external manager, you can simply assign yourself as that. Sorry, the editor can assign themselves as the production manager and take care of it themselves if they want to. And we have some journals that do that too. The other one that we have, I think, which is really good and is a big thing that people quite like about Janeway that perhaps doesn't have an ODS, is we have our pre-publication stage again, which helps people ensure that their paper is ready to be published. And so it runs you through a checklist, and you can customize this checklist as well by adding new elements to it. And it asks you to check the metadata and check the DOI and ensure it's added to an issue and all this sort of thing, and then allows you to even notify the author that the paper's been published. And it just helps you through those to ensure that that paper is ready to go out. But yeah, it's worth, if you guys are using OJS, it's worth having a look at Janeway and seeing what you think. We can get you guys either, we can either organize a demo, or we can get you logged into the to our demo site where you can have a look yourself. And again, you can drop me an email there, and we can organize that. I think the collaboration one we did answer, we're working with them on altmetrics, and we're using PaperBuzz for the data on that as well. And that's a PKP funded project. And so the idea behind that is that when you look at a Janeway journal and you look at an OJS journal, those altmetric numbers, those, you know, you with altmetric and Plum Analytics, you get this little donut thing with a number in it, and they mean different things to different people because altmetric scores are based on whatever algorithm they use. But we discussed this and decided it would be a good idea that if you were looking at altmetrics on Janeway and looking at altmetrics on OJS, that those numbers meant exactly the same thing. And so that's our collaboration with them. They've done some work on it, and we're about to do a plugin for Janeway to go along with it, and we'll be releasing that very soon.
Thanks a lot, sir. I think we have no more questions so far, so please use Q&A chat box.
And we have got another one there from Nicola. Yeah, so any of our, if you go to any of the journals that are on Janeway, well, any of the ones that are hosted on Janeway, so for example, C21. Can you guys see this, what I'm doing on my screen, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I can see that.
Cool. We can pick up any of these articles, and this is the JATS XML output for that article being live translated into HTML. At the moment, this is produced externally by a typesetter, but we are working on and with others on how we can automatically generate this. It's very difficult to do at the moment, but we are looking into that. Yeah, so this is the output this is what basically a published article looks like in C21. And so lots of the metadata is pulled in simply from the submitted metadata from the author, so the abstract, the author's names and stuff like that. And then down here we have the JATS XML output, and then the references at the bottom there. Oh, was that cool? But yeah, on the demo journal, we also have one on the demo journal that you can look at. I think we also have an HTML example there. So Janeway has a plugin that was developed by Carnegie Mellon called Pandoc plugin, and what that does is it takes formatted Word documents and generates HTML outputs. So if you weren't going to publish XML but did want to have an HTML display, you can pull a Word document out of Janeway, format it to the way you want it to look, then upload it into the system and automatically generate an HTML view. So it just takes that Word document as it appears, and then outputs it as HTML. And so we were testing this with the University of Michigan, where they supplied us with a Word document and we output it as HTML. I think maybe the test site might be down at the moment, so it's not going to load. But the HTML output looked very good, matched the Word document as well, which was good. So they had this bit at the top here where they had a table with the different authors being displayed, and they were wondering whether that would format correctly coming through the Pandoc plugin. And so we were able to show them that, that generating the HTML would work quite well. So that's another one that we have. The next step we're looking at is the generation of PDFs. So for smaller libraries who don't perhaps have the budget to pay to have JATS XML generated because it is labor intensive, you'd be able to format ODT in Word documents, and then Janeway would automatically be able to create PDFs and HTML outputs that look the same as the formatted Word document or ODT. Love this picture of a cat.
Thanks a lot. Nicola manages Serbian journals platform. Any other questions? Comments? Okay, I guess.
If anyone does have any questions they don't want to put directly into that, then feel free to drop me an email.
So I will email slides and recording link, and you'll have Andy's contacts, and I'll also add Mauro's. And
yes, that would be good. Sorry about that, Mauro.
And thanks again. It was very interesting, and I'm really excited about Janeway developments. So
Thanks
then,
for having us.
have a good rest of the day, and thanks again for joining us.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.